And we're back to the nonprofit world. Thanks for sticking around. Our next guest is going to shake the shyness out of you. I guarantee it. How many times have you had an opportunity where you could address a group, 2, 3, maybe your entire church, your whole neighborhood, but no, that's not for me. You know, I can't speak well in public. Well, our next guest on the nonprofit world has some answers, and I guarantee you by the time the show is over, you will be glad you will have spent some time, and you'll probably be parading out in your neighborhood tonight. No, not that far. That's stretching it. But let's get started, and we're going to have a good time. Our next guest is Grehn. She is a distinguished Toastmaster. Now, you may have heard the term Toastmaster. It's a group that's been around a very long time and has done some marvelous work, as you shall find out. She began her more than 30 years with Toastmaster, and sometimes known as Toastmaster International, in Arizona. Progressed through the Midwest and is now with us here in Connecticut, where she's been for a while. And we already, because she's such an outgoing person, already told me one of her secret passions. We'll get to that in a little while. So, Deb, thank you very much for coming and joining us here.
Thank you, Jerry, for having me.
You bet. For people who have never heard of Toastmasters International, what is it?
Toastmasters International is the world's leading organization for improving communication and leadership. Our tagline is where leaders are made. And one of the things that leaders have to do is communicate well. The Toastmasters program, which was founded by Dr. Ralph Smedley, October of 1924, I'll let you do the math, I'm not good at math. Toastmasters helps individuals improve those essential communication and leadership skills. It's a self-paced organization. We don't say you have to have anything completed by a certain date. It is up to you to form your own program based on materials that the organization provides.
That's interesting. Now, can you give us a little sense of the history of the term Toastmasters? I mean, we may think of it these days as, you know, the best man at a wedding, or in comedy circles now, Roast Master has sort of come to the fore. But when he began the program, what was the meaning of that word and how has that evolved?
Actually, the meaning was the same then as it is now. It's someone who gives a toast at an occasion. And Dr. Smedley felt that young men should know how to do that. So he formed a club for men, men only at that time, where they could practice these skills that would be helpful to them in their business careers. Eventually, they let women in a separate organization called Toastmasters, which was dissolved, I believe, in the early 1970s, and men and women were both welcome in Toastmasters.
As in the same group. That's great.
In the same group.
Now, considering our society today, where a man is just as likely to have a female boss as a male boss, I'm sure that's a very good place to hone your skills for communications all the way around, sort of 360.
Correct. Everybody needs to communicate, whether they're in the office, whether they're socializing. You should know how to properly communicate in your own family. So communication is not a skill that individuals don't need. Everyone can use a brush up.
Understood.
And Toastmasters helps with that.
So some people are normally shy, as we were chatting about a moment ago. What brings them to Toastmasters in the first place? Because if I'm shy, I'm thinking, oh, I could never do this. Why would I even want to, knock on the door, attend a meeting, kind of, be a fly on the wall as we attend? What drives people to want to come?
People come for various reasons. Some come because their bosses suggest it. Your career could go farther if you were a better public speaker. Some people want to improve their leadership capacities. The nonprofit world is full of leaders who could use a brush up. And Toastmasters is a laboratory, if you will. Each club has a president, a vice president, a cabinet of officers. People learn how to lead other individuals by being an officer in a particular club. And each club meeting has instances where people need to lead. The Toastmaster, who is the person in charge of the entire meeting, the table topics master in charge of impromptu speaking, the general evaluator leads the evaluators of the speakers. We have smaller roles. They're invocators, people who give words of wisdom at the beginning, timers, people who time the speeches. Our timers and support roles are asked to stand up and tell what you're doing. So it's an opportunity to speak.
So it sounds like at almost any stage of your development within the club, there's room for you.
There's
a
room.
role.
There is a role for you. We ask that guests come in open-minded and willing to learn. You don't have to participate on your first time, but you're never going to get better unless you start practicing.
What about you, Deb? What drove you to attend your first or sit into your first meeting?
Well, Jerry, a long time ago,
Tell me all about
I'll
it.
tell you, I was in 8th grade. I was enrolled in forensics, if you will, or a speech club. We had a contest. I had a speech to do. I memorized the speech, word for word. I got up in front of the lights, the audience. I forgot word for word. I knew at that time I needed a little assistance. But in 8th grade, I wasn't ready for Toastmasters. I took speech classes in high school. I went to a small school, so there weren't many available. Took a course or two in college and decided I liked it. I really enjoyed public speaking. When I got to graduate school in Arizona, there it was, the Thunderbird Toastmasters. I signed up, I think, my second day on campus. And thus began my Toastmastering career.
And a long career since then.
A long career.
And you were a member there. You moved around the country, the Midwest.
Yes.
And what brought you to Connecticut?
My husband's job brought me here. And I spent a few years in motherhood and adjusting to my new life here in Connecticut. But when my son was 3 years old, I decided eventually I want to go back to work. I'd better brush up on my skills. At that time, we didn't have social media or any way to become involved in Toastmasters except by going through the door of a club meeting. And it took me, even though I had been an experienced member of Toastmasters in clubs in different states, it took me several times to walk through the door. I remember I drove to the meeting, I stayed in my car. I drove to the meeting the second time. I walked up to the door. I turned around. Finally, on the third try, I drove to the meeting, walked to the door, and opened it. That began my career. And people always say the journey of 1,000 miles always begins with the first step. Well, for me, it was the process of getting to that first step. It took a long time.
It really sounds like one of the biggest benefits, and correct me if I'm wrong, of Toastmasters membership and participation is confidence.
Oh, yes, confidence. I got into Toastmasters here in Connecticut with the intention of improving my skills. The secretary of the club left. I was asked, would you step in and take her place? I'd never been an officer in any kind of organization. I never thought I had any leadership capabilities at all. But I was encouraged. I was asked, then I was encouraged. I was given help along the way. And I felt I was a success. I became president of the club the next year. Following year, I became an area governor, which meant I was in charge of presidents. I worked my way up the leadership chain until I eventually became the district governor for the state of Connecticut, Western Massachusetts, and Eastern New York.
That's a lot of geography.
That's a lot of geography, and we had about 100 clubs.
Wow.
That I was in charge of.
And was this at the same time you were getting back into the workforce? And I think you started
Yes.
your own business, right?
I had not at that time, but I was back in the corporate world, and I found the leadership experience helpful in my corporate life as well.
Well, you led on to give me a secret about you. Maybe it's not going to be a secret much longer, but among your passions, in addition to public speaking, which you love, is baking. Did I get that right?
I think you did. I'm not sure which is higher, baking or public speaking. I'd like to be able to bring them both into my business. But I did start a business a few years ago, a baking business.
This is going to sound like a stupid question, so if you want to come back at me with an equally nonsensical answer, that's fine. Do you need to have confidence to be a baker? Because baking is hard.
Of course you need confidence. It always helps if you are willing to fail, because you get perfection through failure. And no one's ever going to be perfect, but as close to perfection as possible through failure. Keep trying, keep after it, keep doing it, keep speaking if you want to be a good communicator. So, yes, confidence is part of baking. How am I going to sell you my wares if I don't have the confidence in what I produce, if I don't love what I produce? So my pound cake would be of no use to you if I couldn't tell you how wonderful it is. If my face doesn't light up when I explain to you what I'm selling.
So this
that's not
sounds
good.
like it has benefits, not just in public speaking, but in a one-to-one situation, as a salesperson, for example, or
Yes.
or perhaps convincing your college professor of why this report was not up to snuff as it should have been.
I've never had to use it that way, but I think a Toastmastering background could be useful in that sense.
How many people are in a typical club?
Toastmasters International would like club levels to be at 20 or above. And the reason for that number, it takes about maybe 10 to 15 people to run a club meeting. And you will need speakers, you will need participants, you will need support players. So 20 club members, and the clubs, both the clubs that I belong to, have about that number. And each meeting has 15 or so. Not everyone is able to come.
How often do you meet?
Most club meetings are either the first and third day of a month, so that's 2 times, or second and fourth. Some lucky clubs meet every Tuesday, every Thursday. Some are morning clubs, some are evening clubs, some are noontime clubs. The spectrum is wide.
And I'll bet there's a lot of laughs after the group gets to know each other pretty well.
Club culture is one of the most important aspects of Toastmasters. It suggested that you find a club that fits your personality so that you can be comfortable with the organization, with the people that you interact with, and with yourself.
Well, Deb, you've given us what Toastmasters does, what the methods are, what the means are, but the best is yet to come. We're going to take a break, and in a minute, we're going to be joined with Lorna Little. And Deb is going to show us what happens when you attend a meeting. Now, it will just be amongst the three of us, so it won't have, the boisterousness that a typical Toastmasters event would have. But I think you're going to get a taste. So stick around. That's coming right up. And welcome back to the nonprofit world. We are going to have some fun. We're joined again with our master baker, Deb Grehn, who's actually here for Toastmaster purposes. And joining us back again is Lorna Little from St. Agnes Home. Hello. We were talking about how much fun Toastmasters is and how it can turn a shy person into a public speaker, be a great orator, but mostly have a lot of self-confidence in yourself and really turn your life around. Well, now we're going to demonstrate that. Lorna's here with Deb, and we are going to demonstrate what it's like. If you've ever wanted to find out what it's like to go to a Toastmaster event, to be in a session, you're going to find out. Ladies, welcome back, Lorna.
Welcome.
Okay, so
thank you.
Let's say I'm the shy type, and I am walking in, and I'm trembling because, I always kind of liked it being shy, but I know I've got to break out of my shell. Toastmaster is famous for helping people through the process of that. So, you've been in an executive position in the group for so many years, from coast to coast, virtually.
Yes, I have.
And Lorna, you've told us that you're a new member, actually, so it's not your first initiation. But I've never been to an event. Show me what happens. What sort of techniques do you use?
Welcome to Toastmasters, Jerry. I'm glad that you are here. You have decided, you've made the decision that Toastmasters can help you. You've walked through the door. That's the first step in becoming a Toastmaster, walking through the door. As you sit in our club meeting, you have the option of participating if you so desire. And I hope, because you're here in this very small meeting, that you will participate. I'm going to give you a job this evening. I want you to be the timer of our impromptu table topics session.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Let me explain what we're going to do. Table topics. Impromptu speaking is probably the most daunting assignment in the entire club meeting. Wouldn't you agree, Lorna?
Yes.
Prepared speakers have research, they have notes, they have props, many things at their ready. Evaluators have listened to speakers and have notes and a plan to follow. Impromptu speakers have none of the above. The segment is run by a table topics master who is in charge of the subject matter. He or she may ask a question, ask for comment on a statement he or she makes. The job of the speaker is to speak for at least 1 to 2 minutes, at least 1 minute, no more than 2.5 minutes, in any way, shape, or form he or she chooses.
On a topic that they are completely caught off guard by.
Correct.
Wow.
Being caught off guard happens all the time. If you're in a meeting at work and your supervisor asks a question, it's your responsibility to respond. You can't just say, and let it go at that.
What I would normally do.
Right. You must formulate some sort of a response. And table topics helps you with that process. The thing that we always say about table topics, if you don't know the answer to the question, if you have no idea on the subject matter, make it up. It's a license to lie, if you will. We want you to talk for at least a minute. Lorna, are you up for the task?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go. Jerry, you are the timer this evening. At 1 minute, I'd like you to show Lorna the green signal.
Okay, so
That's
we
1
have a
minute.
sign here that says green. Okay,
1 minute and a half.
1 minute and a half.
Yellow.
Yellow.
And 2 minutes, the red card.
So green is 1 minute, yellow is minute and a half, and red is 2.
As 2 minutes.
Okay.
Shall we begin? Lorna, welcome to the lectern.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. As these days of summer come to an end, our memories of summer stay with us. I'd like you to go back many years and tell me, what was your favorite high school summer song?
Well, that is an interesting question. My favorite summer song from high school. First of all, you're making me think about how far back high school truly was. And so, as I think about high school, I have to think about Prince. And remembering having his poster on my wall. A poster that my friends reminded me of and recently as he passed away. And Michael Jackson was another favorite. So I think I have to pick Michael Jackson. Prince and Michael Jackson tie, I think Off the Wall was one of my favorite albums. I can't pick one song from the album. I have to say the entire Off the Wall album. Thriller and all the different songs on that album was very interesting to me. I love to dance. I love music. I remember even jumping double dutch to the songs. And I think double dutch is something that is sticking in my mind at this point because I recently hurt my knee jumping double dutch in an adult double dutch tournament. And what my friends reminded me was that I'm not the same age that I used to be in high school when we listened to Michael Jackson and Prince and listened to music that we were in love with. So Michael Jackson Off the Wall album was one of my favorites and Prince was another. Thank you for bringing back those wonderful memories of summer fun and high school music.
Thank you very much. And we would clap. Thank you.
That was fascinating.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I was thinking, how would I answer that question? Of course, I would have had a generation's space between your memories and my memories.
And I was nervous. I mean, because I don't know what she's going to ask. You know, even when I came to Toastmasters, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking I'm coming in and someone's going to teach me how to be a great public speaker. And it's through process and learning. And that's what I'm learning. I'm new there. But I'm learning it's by watching and the processes and opportunities and even timing. Because when you speak, you have no idea how long you're speaking for. But this is good because it's giving you practice to, you know, how much time you have to speak and not wanting to end. Because, I mean, your red comes up and you don't want to just say, oh, I missed, you know, all the things I wanted to say. And that happens.
One thing that you did that I really commend you on, you brought it back at the end to the question that I asked you.
Okay.
That is one skill that people take a long time to learn. But it is a way of concluding,
Okay.
bringing it full circle.
Thank you.
Job well done.
Thank you. I'm learning from her. She's a master.
Yes, that's pretty clear. Now, once you've mastered something like this, you have that internal clock, you know how to fake it till you make it, if you will.
That's correct.
What are some of the next steps then to mastery?
You always need to practice. No matter where you are in the Toastmasters program, you always need to practice. Toastmasters starts you off with a basic manual of 10 speeches. The first one is called the icebreaker. It assumes that you know nothing about public speaking, and it's a way to introduce yourself to an audience. You can do that in whatever form you like. You can do the chronological route. I was born on January 22nd in X, Y, and Z place. You can have fun with it. One of the speeches that I did, I've had the opportunity of giving an icebreaker several times. One of my favorite, I think, way to do this, as a self-employed individual, I don't dress up very often. I wear mostly t-shirts and jeans. I happened upon t-shirts that fit my personality, and I introduced myself to my audience in terms of the t-shirts I wear. One said, "Caution, prone to sudden outbursts of music." That's perfect for me because I sing a lot. Another said, "Shoes. The best thing in life is a new pair of shoes," or something to that effect. So you can have fun with the icebreaker and do whatever you like so that the audience knows you. By the time you have reached the 10th speech, you should have mastered technique. You should know how to use props. You should know how to inspire an audience. You should know how, I believe, inspire your audience, is the last speech. You go from the beginning knowing nothing to inspiring an audience. Once you've done the first 10 speeches, which are the foundation of public speaking, that's when the fun begins. Toastmasters has an entire program of advanced speaking on subjects such as entertaining speaker, humorously speaking, technical presentations. If you have to give presentations at work, it's an opportunity for you to practice in front of an audience that will give you honest feedback.
And in your position, Lorna, you are in a position where you have to talk to a lot of influential people as the executive director of a very important group here in the central Connecticut area. Why did, you're already doing this for a living. What drove you to post?
Well, it's funny, as I'm sitting here, that's what I was thinking about, is the fact that I can liken it to the fact that I've been driving for years, but it feels like I was driving without a license. That's the best. No, the reason I say that is because I've been speaking, I've been doing different things. People have commended me, saying I'm a great speaker, especially around inspiration. It's funny that you say that's the last one. But I didn't have any particular training, guidance. And I said, you know what? I need to go and formalize what I'm doing. So I do speak to people. I had to speak to governors, and I go different places. But I needed to get some kind of packaging on what I was doing.
You needed the foundation.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
And so this is good with, even intonation and just different things, and watching how I speak, and just having that guidance and a formula is what I needed. So for me, it was kind of scary going into something and saying, okay, I've been driving, I have to back up and relearn what I thought I knew. So that was the motivation. I thought it was something that I like to do. I'm interested, still get nervous, but I need guidance to really do this on another level.
Did you have an aha moment?
In Toastmasters, or
Yes.
that drove me to go?
In Toastmasters.
you know, I went to a couple of meetings and didn't speak and kept
Right.
saying, I don't know if I want to say anything. And then table topics came up and it was like, Lorna, you're selected for table topics. And it was like now or never. And I picked it's interesting, it just happened to be that both my table topics, the things that I was provided, let me kind of share about some personal things. I was like, okay, so now I'm going to do some more humorous things moving forward. But it was an aha moment in terms of I felt comfortable enough with the group to share and didn't feel as if it was going to be where someone was like, or you were wrong, or you didn't do this right, or, you know, you should have said it this way or should have said it that way. You do get evaluation, but not in those first sets of speech. And you did get some feedback, but they're always positive feedback.
They're always positive.
In a way that gives you guidance in a caring way.
Positive feedback, but we offer suggestions on how you
Yes,
can improve. One thing that you said, you felt comfortable with us. Toastmasters likes you to feel comfortable with your group. It's suggested that you visit numerous clubs before you settle on one, because a club culture is part of this. It's not just a place you go, give a speech, and leave. There's interaction at all levels, from the beginning of the meeting, even before the meeting. People congregate, we talk, get to know one another.
That must be a real boost to the the confidence level when you're with a group of friends who are sort of in
Right.
the same boat as you.
And I think it's inspiring because one of the individuals who actually said, you should try Toastmasters, was a young woman who last year, I guess 2015, she was the second international champion. And she's a cousin of a friend of mine. And so she said, try it. And as you said, she said, go to different places. But I went to West Hartford and felt comfortable enough that I didn't really need to try any other location. So I'm glad I ended up there.
I'm glad that you're with us. Thank you, Lauren. Yes. Another thing, don't immediately join. If this is something that you're serious about and something that you really are interested in, come as a guest for a few meetings before you sign on the dotted line. That way, you'll make it a part of your life. It'll be more of a commitment to you, not just something you jumped into, then you think, oh, what did I get into? But you've had the opportunity to experience the club meeting several times. I hope you will have participated several times.
Yeah. It becomes something that you want to do as
And
opposed
it's
to something you
that
have
you
to do.
want to do.
Exactly.
And those things that you do because your heart tells you to do it, not your head, are the things that you continue and stay with.
It's just like television. When you have the times up, you know, it's very similar in terms of doing the process.
Yeah.
And
Well, I can feel the shyness just like an onion peeling away from me. Ladies, thank you very much for being with us today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. Thank you both for your time and for everything you do.
Thank you, Jerry.
And for those of you watching, thank you very much for being part of our show tonight. It was terrific. You can watch our next episode of The NonProfit World here on Nutmeg TV, and you can also go to nutmegtv.org to get the next listings of when the show is. Plus, you can also see the show anytime on nutmegtv.org on demand. I'm Jerry Vaillancourt. Thank you very much for watching NonProfit World.